It is time for another viewer match, and what I got for you today is a Diamond League Terran vs Terran played on Abyssal Reef LE. Spawning in the top left corner, playing with the red Terran pieces, he goes by the nickname of Thatch. And his opponent playing with the blue SCVs, spawning on the other end of the map. And actually, speaking of devil, he's sending out a handful of SCVs really early on into this match, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. He goes by the nickname of Oreo. I'm gonna make the assumption that is like the cookie Oreo. I mean, I wanted to, for the longest time, rename my account to Snickers Bar. I guess, no, actually, that doesn't sound very good. But regardless, while I'm assuming here that Oreo will be fully aware of the fact that indeed Terran vs Terran is usually dominated with Marines and Siege Tanks, it looks like he's planning to get pretty aggressive here in the earlier stages of this match by proxying a handful of Barracks. At the same time though, Thatch already playing this much more safely, going for that much more conservative Barracks in the main base, following it up with a refinery, and while I actually thought, oh my god, no, he's actually going to be building a Barracks here on the other end of the map. I thought that he was going to be scouting here with the SCV, but the path was looking a little bit funny, and he indeed is also building up 2 Barracks at this point in time. Oreo may very well be going for a third one here very, very shortly. He's going to need himself that second refinery, of course, if he plans to build up non-stop Reapers here. But regardless, both players opening up really aggressively here, and while Thatch will be able to finish up his first Barracks a little bit sooner, I wonder exactly what the outcome is gonna be, but I'm assuming that it's gonna be a lot of dead SCVs. I mean, let's think about this, right? I don't think Thatch wants to like commit one of those Barracks to defensive play. Instead, he's probably gonna rally this one straight across the map, just like he is right now, and he is planning to do as much damage here to these SCVs as he possibly can. And at the same time, we see the exact same happening here for Oreo, already producing that very first Reaper here too, and the SCVs are going to be able to return home now that they've done their jobs. But still, he is looking to do a lot of damage. Now actually, Thatch is building up a supply depot here on the top of this ledge. That is actually a very risky move, because if this one gets killed, he is gonna be supply blocked. That is going to be an issue here that Thatch will need to try and finish up. First Reaper will jump up on the ledge right now. It's not quite engaging it just yet, and there we go. It starts dealing some damage. If he gets this, that's gonna hurt a lot, but at the last second, oh my god, that supply depot just barely finished up, and the Reaper is gonna start nibbling away at all of these SCVs. At the same time though, second Reaper has already arrived, and also the Reapers of the Terran player in red are now on the other end of the map, so they will start dealing some damage here very shortly, as well as the ones in blue are doing to his own mineral line. There we go. Both players throwing around these Reaper grenades, and while it did recently get nerfed, they're still plenty powerful to throw them around consistently to do as much damage here as they possibly can to all of these SCVs. And while the supply counts are currently in favor here for the Terran player in blue, shortly, once these SCVs start falling, this is going to even up here, because look at that, the 4 Reapers here for Thatch will be able to do a very substantial amount of damage, and the last of this income will fall here very shortly here as well for Oreo. And I guess that the same has already sort of happened here for Thatch. I mean, he's desperately still trying to mine from a single mule, but if you look at the amount of income here and the amount of SCVs that are still remaining, there's only one out here for Thatch. That is going to be the one that built that Barracks initially here in the earlier stages of the game, whereas there are still 3, and I guess those are the 2 that initially built the Barracks on the other end of the map as well, because the wall was closed off here. There are only 3 of them remaining here. This is going to be a little bit crazy, isn't it? Both players are evacuating their main bases, or at the very least, Oreo is doing so. Shortly, the liftoff will be, apparently these Reapers have got a bit of a death wish, but very shortly indeed, that liftoff will be forced here as well, unless that orbital commander will start burning. And Thatch is now going to be able to start, I mean, putting all of these buildings down here on his opponent's end of the map as well. Actually, only fighting that one until it starts burning, which is really cute. But still, very shortly, he will be able to start, you know, taking out the last of the buildings of his opponent's main base, while the same is also happening on his end of the map. If you have a look at the unit count though, it is currently 7 Reapers here for Thatch. He does have a little bit more, and he's actually also still producing from the proxied Barracks. So very shortly it will be 8 versus only 6 of them. At the same time, Oreo apparently feeling ballsy enough to put up a new command center at the 3rd base location of his opponent. Oreo taking care of the last of the buildings here, but it looks like he's planning on mining here on the other end of the map. Now, at the same time, Thatch not quite having that plan just yet. He's not floating off the orbital command into any direction in particular. But of course, Oreo will be aware of this fact here as well. And apparently, the Reapers of Thatch have now also made their way towards the third base location that he was probably planning on taking later on into this game. But still, it's 8 versus 6 Reapers. Somehow, some way, Thatch actually ends up losing one of his Reapers while not killing any of his opponents. But it looks like one of them do end up falling there. The last of the SCVs, though, that were available just now do also end up falling, and still the army supply counts are here in favor of Thatch. But the longer that this goes on, the more mining can indeed be produced out of those 2 command centers. And actually 3 mules now will start ramping up that income very aggressively. At the same time, Thatch has retaken his old main base. Reapers once again jumping up and down cliffs, and it's a bit risky because of course there's quite a little bit of animation time, I suppose, right there, right? During which like the Reapers can't really shoot. So jumping up and down these cliffs is rather risky, and I would really like to see Thatch just simply take up a straight on engagement like he is doing right there. But he is getting out microed by his opponent. Apparently Oreo, though, right as I say that, of course, starting to hit his own Reapers with the grenades that he threw out on the map, and he's actually taking a lot of damage here. Reapers being you know, very efficient here, though, and still, there somehow, some way, are now 4 remaining here for Oreo, whereas there are only 3 here for Thatch. Thatch instead decides to go after the mules that are here mining, and I guess Oreo, now that he's got a little bit of time to heal up those Reapers, somehow managed to come out ahead there with just a little bit of superior control. Now Thatch, right, he knows very well that this is going to be the last of the mining for his opponent, but Oreo has no idea about this just yet. I mean, at this point, he must make the assumption that there might potentially be like another base out for his opponent, so I would really like to see some scouting here for him very shortly. But then again, splitting off these units is rather scary. A few Marines have now also joined this fight. They get picked off very easily by Reapers. Of course, they deal a lot of damage. Thatch now also still throwing the grenades at his own Reapers, but still, I mean, with a little bit of production once again being added on here, the same actually goes, I guess, for the Terran player in red. This is starting to be a bit of a crazy match. I mean, the longer this goes on, right, the more income Oreo will be able to start getting here with the double barrack. Oh my god, look at that. That was so risky. With the double command centers, I mean, he's actually adding on a second orbital command now as well. But jumping up and down those cliffs, I don't really think it's the way to do this. I don't really think that is the way you want to approach this game. Now, what I would really like to see is him finishing up that bunker that recently got shot down. I really would like to see this bunker being finished up. And actually, this is such a cute little move. Mining right there from the mineral patches using mules, and then using all the SCVs that you got to start adding on the gas geysers here as well. Actually, the Marines on the high ground now. Really nice little bit of control here by Thatch. Oreo, however, still blaming lag, even though he has had the superior engagement so far. Apparently, it's much easier to blame lag than it is to, you know, blame your own miscontrol. I don't really know. Maybe he is lagging, though. I'm just kidding, but regardless, it does seem to be a common thing on the ladder where people like to blame lag or balance or hacks or whatever rather than their own personal skill. Regardless, though, Thatch has indeed finished up that bunker on the high ground. He put the Marines in there, so of course that will completely shut down his opponent from jumping up that ramp, and he's desperately trying to shoot down the bunker here for his opponent, and indeed at the last second it does get cancelled. Oreo goes for the scout now with a single Reaper. Quite a brave little move. The SCV apparently does live to fight another day, at least for the time being, but I really do like this move for Oreo to start scouting about. Of course, we know very well that there isn't going to be anything else out on this map, but of course Oreo doesn't quite have that knowledge. Now he has somehow, some way figured out the resources to add on a factory here. The same can be said here for Thatch. He has added on a tech lab to that barracks, and I actually really do like this move. He's getting himself some marauders here, and I guess he's also adding on indeed that slowing upgrade right there, the concussive shells for the marauders to slow down the Reapers, which is a reasonably easy way of picking them off if they're trying to escape from the engagement. At the same time, though, Oreo is instead spending a lot of resources on getting himself that factory, the tech lab, and now also a siege tank. I love that move. If you get a siege tank out right now, that would be absolutely incredible. At the same time, though, one of the Reapers does indeed get picked off there with the concussive shell. Apparently, one of the Marines does float to the surface as well, and Thatch is called in a bit of a weird angle. He's trying his best to get his own factory out now as well with a tech lab, and shortly you will be able to start producing siege tanks here as well. But what exactly is going to be the follow-up right now, right? Like, Oreo knows very well, or at the very least can make the assumption that this is his only mining base, that this is the only income really that Thatch is getting. And in just a couple of minutes, this base will start running rather slim here too. Thatch will need something to start dealing as much damage as possible. And apparently, actually, there is enough range here to start dealing some damage here to the SCVs, and one of them does end up falling. Siege tank in production, the Reapers allowing for that high ground vision, 2 of the Marines immediately getting shut down with one of those shells, scan even being used here on the high ground to try and figure out if there are any potential like hidden siege tanks for his opponent, and for the time being there is indeed none. Second siege tank very shortly gonna be joining in this engagement as well, and the Reapers desperately trying to do as much damage as they possibly can. This could become a little bit scary because Thatch indeed smartly sieging up the tank here on the top of that ledge, and he will be able to shut down the economy here at that location here for his opponent very, very shortly. Look at that. They will be able to start dealing a lot of damage, and a ton of SCVs do indeed end up falling. However, at the same time, the second siege tank is now available, and the Reapers provide their high ground vision, so indeed those barracks, or the barracks right there, will be lifted here very shortly, or it will end up falling. There we go. It doesn't need to get lifted. And shortly, this is gonna be a bit of a crazy match because Oreo is trying to do as much damage as possible. He's trying to fight his opponents from the inside out, but at the same time, he doesn't really have any income anymore unless he's going for another base, and it looks like that's exactly what is going to be the case here for this point in the game. Siege tank forced to be unsieged. Second one joining in very shortly. I would really like to see a Liberator come out of this starport here, because when you think about it, there's only a few Marines here that shoot up, and they're going to be not taking, like, they're not going to be able to take out a Liberator very easily. These siege tanks would easily fall against a single Liberator. I would really like to see that priority, but still, Oreo is now splitting off his command centers. One is going off to the southern part here, and one, I guess, has been landed at the 4th base location, and a lot of income will very shortly be part of this game here for Oreo, as he will be able to get a lot more mules out. Thatch, of course, still ahead in that army supply count. He's been steadily mining, right? He may not have that many command centers and he may not get that much income, but he's still steadily mining here from the main base without really any interruptions. These workers have been very efficient, but shortly something else will need to happen. Now, Oreo has sieged up 2 of the siege tanks here at the top of the ramp. Of course, those that barracks right there doing a lot of damage, but actually Thatch unsieging one of his tanks right here. Very ballsy move by Oreo, and he does manage to pick off one of his opponent's siege tanks, and now with that leapfrog forward, a very risky move, but Oreo will be able to start shelling away at that orbital command. That's a huge deal. First Liberator, however, is now out. That is going to be nice because he will be able to put that one right on top of the siege tanks. We'll have to do some target firing down, although that Marine does end up falling. Second siege tank does manage to get out of there, but Thatch will be able to continue mining here for at least a little while longer. And, oh my god, he's even adding on a tech lab now as well. I guess he may be looking to potentially get like a Raven or maybe even a Banshee out here. But still, Oreo getting so much production here. Look at this, right? He's going to be able to just simply outproduce his opponent here very, very shortly. But still, Thatch can do so much damage here with this Liberator. Just simply shut down one of these expansions very, very nicely. And look at that. The damage is being dealt. These SCVs are falling. The mules are not mining. They all get one shot. And this single Liberator already picking up 8 kills. And what is soon to be his 9th. Oh my god, poor SCV. That one got absolutely demolished. Barracks still on the other end of the map, not really producing a whole lot of anything. But Oreo, of course, still does have that second base here as well. And Thatch is not aware of it. He's going to try and figure out if there is another base taken over here. Shortly, we'll figure out that that is not going to be the case. Cloaking field now also being researched here for Thatch. So indeed, those Banshees that will come out will start dealing a lot of damage. He does figure out now exactly where all of the income from his opponent is coming from. And he's got to be careful here, though, because this Liberator will start falling. That was far too aggressive of a move. And at this point, I mean, oh my god, look at that. 35 versus 22 workers were killed, which is a substantial amount. And Oreo, actually, somehow, some way, figuring out that he needs himself a missile turret. That may very well just be simply a response to the Liberator play, but it's gonna be very good once he figures out that his opponent indeed does have Banshees coming in. He's gonna be very happy when he finds this one out. Second missile turret now also being added on here, and of course, that will not only, you know, give him a means to start fighting those Banshees, but also provide him with the vision that he needs while the units are going to be cloaked. Banshee trying his very best to loop around, activating the cloaking field right away, and it will be able to get a couple of kills more than likely, at the very least of this one barracks that's trying to produce, or rather this one SCV that's trying to produce the starport. But still, there's, oh man, quite a few kills though, even with the cloaking, right? Quite a few kills are still being picked off, and I mean, Thatch is still doing damage, but like I'm a little worried. This base will slowly start moving out, right? And you can see he's purposefully not dropping the mules anymore, just because this command center will be running out of resources here, and this expansion will start running out of resources here very shortly. Sadly for Oreo, he does not quite have the proper positioning on that missile turret there. You always want to put it in the middle of your mineral line if you're not entirely sure. Of course, you know, against Liberators, you probably want to put it a little bit further out. And still, that Banshee does pick up 4 kills there in total. It's hard to say who's currently ahead, right? I mean, it's 53 versus 48, or now 50 supply for both players. Army supply-wise, it's pretty much dead even, and both players are desperately trying to add on as much as they possibly can. I'm just a little worried here for Thatch, just because those mineral patches here in the main will start looking slim, and he doesn't have any chances here to start landing more mules. Of course, those mules are indeed being landed now at Oreo's base, and he is just simply adding on as much as he possibly can. I would really like to see, for example, like a Viking or maybe even like a Liberator from Oreo as well, which should do super well against all of the aggression that his opponent is trying to do. Sure, that Banshee is nibbling away here at one of the refineries, and that is all fine and dandy, but really, they're not really doing the damage that they were originally meant to be built for as well. Second missile turret now also being added on. Thatch is desperately trying to do whatever damage he can out of these units that he created, but I'm starting to be a little bit worried here because his opponent is just simply getting so much stuff. Mineral patches looking slimmer and slimmer every single time I come back to this main base, and while he has somehow some way picked up another kill here with the Banshee, and he also forced the lift off, those mules will still be landed and that supply will still be growing here for the Terran player in blue. Now, somehow, some way though, Oreo is actually, I guess he is not too comfortable with a position that he's in right now. Hitting up a couple of supply blocks, both players not quite spending the resources that you absolutely want them to spend right now. They're just trying to build up an army, and I guess Thatch is kind of hoping for the fact here that his opponent could potentially be moving up the ramp, but Oreo smartly sitting back, not taking any additional risks here, and just waiting for his opponent to potentially come to him. He knows very well that he will be forced to expand here shortly as well, because usually the main base will start running low right around this point in the game. Well, actually, in a regular game, I guess you can expect it much sooner, but I guess he knows very well that since his, you know, newly acquired expansion is already starting to slim, there's a chance that that indeed will happen. New command center now started up here as well by Thatch. I like this move a lot. He's putting it somewhere out on the map where his opponent will be extremely unlikely to scout it. He will not be able to finish it up for another minute or so, but of course, once it does, he is going to be capable of transferring all of these SCVs to that newly acquired expansion. And I guess this game with that could go on for a little while longer. Banshee dealing as much damage as it possibly can. There is now also a Raven out. I actually really do like that too, just because of course that will be able to give that detection, but also actually really do a lot of damage. I mean, a auto turret actually could do a quite a significant amount of damage to all of those units. I guess Oreo is just simply gonna follow the Banshee around here for the time being. Regardless though, Banshee's still floating across the map, still trying to do as much damage as they can, and there we go. Auto turret being dropped after the Marines got some damage in here as well, and Oreo must feel pretty proud about that engagement, even though he hit a supply block. We'll quickly look away from that because, I mean, you know, we don't want to make him look bad now, do we? Siege tanks more and more being added on. A lot of Marines in production now as well. Both players desperately trying to research here whatever they can. Oreo getting himself that +1 upgrade here as well for the infantry units. That of course does make it significantly more powerful, but still, it will not help against fighting siege tanks unless you are, of course, the one that's actually playing defensively. If he's gonna walk with these Marines into a bunch of siege top tanks, he can still be in a lot of trouble. And if you compare the siege tank count, it's only 1 versus 3 here in favor of the Terran player in red. Apparently Thatch has got no minerals remaining here. I mean, have a quick look, right? He's got 6 of them right now, and while apparently somehow some way Oreo has found his newly acquired base, he has got himself some mining here going on once again as well. a few Marines do end up falling, and Oreo finally really starting to spend all of these resources. I mean, he needs to get some more spending going. He's currently up to roughly 1,500 resources there in total, which is far too much. You need to start spending in these super low economy situations. It's crucial that you do so. Now, Thatch, looking to get aggressive there for just a split second, throwing up a scan as well, however, to try and figure out exactly what's going on. And I guess he may be looking to try and loop around. This is actually a really smart move because Oreo has sort of sim-cityed himself into a really weird scenario where his siege tanks will not be able to move across very easily. And as long as Thatch sieges up his tanks before his opponent is going to be capable of doing so, a lot of these Marines will end up falling. And with a beautiful engagement, all of a sudden, this fight is looking heavily in favor of Thatch. While he was looking a little bit scared there for just a split second, I would see that his stellar macro there really was the one thing that carried him through. I mean, he was just simply outproducing the amount of stuff that his opponent was trying to get here as well, and he is dealing so much damage to his opponent's army right now, trying to pick off as many of these buildings as he possibly can. And Oreo, not having proper vision of that engagement, all of a sudden finds himself in a very peculiar situation where he's gonna have a hard time holding on to this base. Stem being activated, but of course there are still a lot of Terran players here, or Terran units here as well for the player in red. Siege tanks being activated here too, and they're going to be able to start dealing damage here to this 4th base location. A siege tank, however, also trying to pick up any reinforcing troops, I suppose. At the same time, though, there is still a lot of mining going on here for Oreo, so he will be able to continue this game for a little while longer, but supply counts are looking more and more in favor here of Thatch. Still, there's only so many units here available, and apparently Thatch, if he's gonna throw away units like he is right now, he will not be able to do a whole lot. Indeed, that siege tank as well as those handful of Marines will end up falling. SCVs, however, being pulled off the line now to start dealing as much damage as he possibly can, and while there is a siege tank here from a distance shelling away, Oreo cannot handle the pressure anymore, and he decides to GG out of that game. What an awesome match. Really, really cool game there. It's definitely fascinating to see the differences between, for example, like a silver level Terran versus Terran and then a Diamond League one as well. I definitely want to say that both of these players have got the correct approach for Terran versus Terran. It's just going to be a little bit better of a macro and I guess a little bit better control that's going to make all the difference. And I guess they may very well be promoted to Master League very shortly if they would be working on those two aspects. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed watching this game. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button down below. If you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. And other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you in the next one.